Hey guys, I'm here with my 2009 Mini Cooper R56. I'm going to do a coolant change. So I got my distilled water, my flush and cleaner, my antifreeze is a 50-50 mix for minis, European car vehicles. My super coolant, you add that along with your antifreeze. And I'm actually going to pull a vacuum on it, but you can use the bleed hose, the bleeder valve. But I'll show you where the bleeder valve is, but I'm going to go ahead and try this new tool, which is to pull a vacuum, to fill it back up so there's no air pockets. So I got my car up on ramps to the slight tilt to my driveway, so actually when it's up on ramps it's actually level. So let's get underneath the car to drain the coolant. Okay, I'm underneath the car. So this is the lower hose, so I'm going to disconnect this. For some reason I thought this was somewhere along the bottom piece here horizontally and not over here. So I'm going to go get a pair of pliers, open up this clamp and make this connection here and catch it in my catch pan underneath. Okay, that's my first change. I don't know why Mini doesn't put drain plugs like every other car in the world, but they don't have drain plugs, so it's a little messy. So make sure you have a big catch pan. So this is my my first drain. So you can see that it's pretty rusty in there, or not sure what that is. That's a leaf that was in the catch pan. That wasn't actually in the engine. So I actually have a thermostat that's stuck open, so I need to do a change on that in a different video. But let me go ahead and I put the pipe back on, and so I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up with some distilled water. Yeah, they don't have a radio cap on the radiator, so everything goes through your reservoir. So first I'm going to pour in some flush and cleaner, and then I'm going to follow it with some distilled water. Make sure you use distilled water. So I filled it up pretty good, so actually I'm going to go ahead and start up the car and turn on the blower for the heat, so that way we can make sure we get the water circulating. So for this flush stuff, it says either drive around for 10 minutes or for a quick flush, or if you want a longer flush, you leave it in there for several days, then drain it out. Okay, my temp gauge says I'm running pretty cold now, so I'm gonna get the car gets warm, and actually for 10 minutes, and let me go check on the fluid to make sure, see if it dropped, and to see if I need to add some more before driving it around. Okay, the level dropped, so I'm going to add a little more distilled water in there, and then go ahead and take it out for a drive for 10 minutes. Okay, been driving around for about 15 minutes, so that's why I'm thinking something's wrong with my thermostat or temperature sensor for the car, not this temperature sensor, that independent one. Because I'm only on the highway, I'm only getting up to 160, so now I put it back up on ramp, so I'm kind of sitting still, so now it's creeping up a little bit higher, but I'm only hitting 175. Interestingly enough, the heat comes out of the heater core when it gets about 155. So normally when I first had this installed and was able to monitor it, I was getting up over 200, like 210. I think it says it should be around 210, 220. The car likes it that way, but I'm only running I've been running really cool, so it's either the thermostat stuck open or the temperature sensor is giving a bad signal to the computer, so it's opening up the thermostat. So either way, that's another problem that I'm going to try to fix. So what I'm going to do is turn off the car and let it cool down to drain the fluid. Okay, I let the cool for about an hour, and drained it. So here's what it looked like with my first drain. Then I filled it up with the flush, drove around for 10-15 minutes and drained it again. And this is my second drain. So you can see it's getting a little bit lighter. So I went ahead and filled it up again with distilled water and go let it run for 10-15 minutes, get the temperature up, and then I'm going to go ahead and drain it again, let it cool and drain it again. Okay, been driving around for a little bit, and interestingly enough, for this round, when I was driving, I can only get it about up to 140 degrees. So now I backed it up and going to put it up on RAM, so now it's just sitting here and I'm up at about 175. So it's running really cool, so I really gotta look at that thermostat and temperature sensor, see why its temperature is running so low, and actually read the code because I have an engine light on saying the engine's not getting warm enough, hot enough. So let me go ahead and put it up on ramps and drain and wait for it to cool and drain it again the third time. Okay, I'm at my third drain, so you can see it's getting a little bit lighter than the second one, but the first and second is most different shades. So this is taking way too long. So I think when I pop the hose, pretty much what comes out of the radiator comes out of the radiator, but the engine itself has a lot of liquid, and the heating core has a lot of liquid. So I'm going to use my device to pull a vacuum on it to see if I can get the rest of the liquid out of there before I fill it up again. Okay, this is what I have to pull a vacuum on the system. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a vacuum, not filling right now because I want to see how much liquid comes out and actually fill it back up with water and run it again. Actually, I could fill it up with water, so let me go ahead and drop this into distilled water. Okay, so I got some distilled water, so I'm actually going to suck distilled water back into the system after I pull a vacuum. This is the discharge hose as I'm pulling vacuum. You pick the right fitting that will go over this, and basically I'm going to pull it till I get around 20 to a vacuum, then close off this valve, and then go ahead and suck up, fill it up with distilled water. Okay, I extended my discharge because I don't know why that hose is so short, kind of useless. So let me see if I can do this. Turn this on and pull vacuum. I think that's the most I'm going to get, so shut off vacuum. So I pretty much opened this one, which goes to my distilled water, and I waited till it sucked it all down to almost zero. So should be filled with distilled water. I didn't get much on the discharge, which is curious. But I wonder if I pull a vacuum again, I should get water coming out. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that and see how much I get out coming out. Okay, that really doesn't work. If you pull a vacuum, it doesn't suck out all the liquid because there's things like this, it doesn't collapse, and the engine block doesn't collapse, so water's just gonna sit in there. I only got a little bit out, so I went ahead and opened this valve, fill it back up with some distilled water, and I guess I'll drive it around again until I start running pretty good clear. Okay, did my fourth drain, and you can see it's much lighter. There's the first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one. It's just a little bit pink now. So let me show you some why this is taking so long. So this is the amount that I just took out, and that was 3.6 quarts basically. So this is what's happening. So my Mini Cooper, which is R56, the engine holds 5.5 quarts. So when I do the first drain, I drain out, let's say every time I drain it out, I drain out 3.6 quarts. So I'm left with 1.9 quarts in there. So then I fill it up with distilled water. So basically this gets diluted down to half, because I'm going to take out, actually it's more than half. Hold on, let me redo the math here. Okay, my math in the beginning was kind of screwy. So the car holds 5.5 quarts. So if I do the first drain, I drain 3.6 quarts, which is about 65% of the 5.5. I'm left with 1.9 quarts, which is about 35%. And so that's 100% of the old coolant in there. So second drain, it keeps going on, 3.6, 1.9. Now I take 65% of the 1.9, what was left in there, because that gets diluted. So I'm only ending up with 1.25 quarts, which is around 23% dilution of the original stuff. So basically we go to the third one, I'm down to 0.8 quarts. What's what left of the original, which is about 14.5%. Then the fourth one, which I just did, I'm about half a quart, and I'm at 9.5% dilution. So if I go to a fifth one, I'll be down to a third of the original and 6% dilution. If I go to a sixth drain, I'll be down to 0.22 quarts, like a quarter of a quart, 4% dilution of the original. Then if I take it to a seventh drain, I'll be down to half of that and only at 2.5%. So I think I might take it down to the sixth drain. So I'll do it 2 more times and get it down to 4% of what the original was. Okay, I just finished my fifth drain, and it's getting really annoying that there's no drain plug. I have to do the hose every single time. So let's see, this is the first one, second, third, fourth, and fifth. You see a little bit of a pink in there, and that's clear water right there. So you can do that as a comparison. So probably do a sixth one, then I'll be done, I think. Because I think a sixth one would bring me down to 4% of the original, which is only about a quarter of the original quart. I mean, a quarter quart of the original amount. Because this first one was obviously 100% of the original. The second one is about 23% of the original, 14.5% of the original, 9.5% of the original, and 6% of the original. So if I do a sixth one, I'll be at 4% of the original and only about a quarter of the original, quarter quart of the original would still be in the car. Guys are probably wondering why it's pink. I have no idea why it was pink. Bought it used, so I don't know why they put pink in there. It should be, I think, blue. So so that's why I'm going to try to get as much out as I can to replace it with the blue antifreeze. So let's do one more. Okay, I finished my 6th drain. So go back and look at the 1st drain, 2nd drain, 3rd drain, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So the 6th has a slight tint to it compared to regular water, distilled water, but that's pretty good because at the 6th is calculated at, there should be only 4% of the original in there, which is about 1/4 of a quart. So so now it's time to fill the car back up with blue antifreeze. If you remember, there's about 1.9 quarts left in the car, so that's mostly distilled water. So so I had to go out and pick up some concentrate blue, so that way I could pour in about 2 quarts of concentrate to dilute that distilled water that's left in the car before I use the 50-50 mix. Okay, so I know in the engine there's 1.9 quarts of distilled water, so I'm going to go ahead and pour in 1.5 quarts of concentrate to offset it before I pull the vacuum. Doesn't matter, this is all going to sink to the bottom anyways. Because previously when I tried to suck it out, pull a vacuum when there's a lot of liquid in there, it really didn't pull out the liquid anyways. That's 1, and we'll do 1.5 just to be safe, because I can always add more concentrate later if it's not exactly 50-50. Okay, just gonna let that drain to the bottom and set up the vacuum. Okay, let me show you what I have here. I have my vacuum hooked up. This one's tightened down so it makes a seal. I got my air hose hooked up. This is my drain down to the drain pail. This is my fluid, and I cut off the top here so that way I could fit that in there because it has a filter. And I have my 50-50. It's going to suck. You don't want that to suck dry, so keep an eye on that. It shouldn't take more. It shouldn't take all that whole gallon anyway. So, and then what I want to keep an eye on is this. When it gets down to 20, let it hold. Make sure it holds the vacuum. Then open this up, and then close this off. Open this up, so it sucks the liquid in. So let's give that a shot. Okay, here we go. Hopefully my duct tape holds the phone in place. So tight. You can see the fluid I put in there. About 23. Let's shut this off. I'm getting a drop. I'm not sure why it's dropping. Leak. There's a leak somewhere. Get a little bit of an air leak. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a drop, so I'm going to go ahead and suck in the liquid. So it's done. The air bubbles came up through here. What happened before. Okay, I'm not sure why when I pulled the vacuum wasn't holding it, but I ran it and started sucking it in. So I got the 50-50 in there. Another way I'm going to check is open the bleed valve to let any air pockets out. And that's actually located down in there. See the crosshatch right there. And if you want to see what that looks like outside, since I mentioned that my thermostat is stuck open, I'm going to have to change it. So I already got the part. So basically this is what it looks like. This would go, this is mounted to the side, and there's the part that you want to loosen to let out like a half a turn. Go ahead and let the air bubbles out. There's your temperature sensor, and there's your thermostat. So basically that's where you let the air out when you're running it, the bubbles. So let me go ahead and start up the car and see if I can get any more air out of it and add any more 50-50 and test what the mix is. So I used my peak tester, and the little thing came up to -35, which is good, because if you look on the painter here, if you're going with 50-50, you should be at -35. So I think I'm good. I have a good mix in there. Okay, that explains why I wasn't holding a vacuum, because when I went to check the bleeder hose, the bleeder valve, it was actually loose. So it wasn't seated all the way down. So I got all the bubbles out, and you could probably do up to 2.5, 3 turns, full turns, without fear of it popping out. I checked it on the new one. So I'm going to tighten it back down and take it out for a drive. My coolant level looks okay in here, so I'm going to have to add some more when I get back. Okay, went for a ride, about 10 minutes. So I'm only at 180. So my thermostat is stuck open, like I said before. So let's look at the engine. So coolant's at its max point. So I don't need to add any more, and I actually forgot to add this. So I'm gonna wait for the engine to cool, maybe siphon a little bit out, and then add this in. I'm only putting a half a bottle of this in, and check for leaks, and then you're done. So thanks for watching, and hope this makes it easier when you swap out your coolant. Thanks for watching.